Today we're going to be talking about the Origins board game table because it's on Kickstarter right now, and I want to make sure you guys are making the best backing decision with your money. So let's talk about my table right now. I made a recent vlog where I talked about my board game table, and I thought, based on the comments, that a lot of you were interested in hearing my thoughts regarding what I like, what I don't like, and maybe what I would recommend if I were to buy another Origins table. So that's what this is. For full disclosure, this video is not sponsored, and I paid for this table with my own money during the first campaign. So this is basically my story of the Origins board game table. So let's take a deeper look. So right off the bat, let's talk about what I like about the table. The Origins is large, it's sturdy, it definitely fills the space well in our room. Maybe almost too well. It's very, very imposing in my small studio space. In fact, it takes up a massive spot of the room. But that's okay because it serves the purpose that I need for a functional board game table. Underneath here is the playing surface. We have a 4-leaf system here, and these leaves are very, very heavy. Well, heavy is a subjective term, I guess. Underneath the leaves, you'll find either two options. I have here the suede. I believe they call it the dynamic suede or speed suede. The company, the Origins board game table company, originally was a poker table. I think they go by BBO poker tables, if I recall correctly. And so you could see that in the suede here, the quality and comfort of playing. I also got, as you can see here, a custom-made logo for my studio brand. I paid for this. This was like $300, I believe. And unfortunately, because of the depth of the table, you don't see this as often, and we'll get to that. The alternative solution for this is a neoprene playmat, which would sit. You can actually remove this. There's a thing to push under here. I don't know if you can see that, but this can come out, and you can place your neoprene mat there on the wood surface that's there, or you could have what I have, the speed cloth here, and then if you want to place another neoprene mat on top to either protect this or change up the logo, those are options as well. The custom mat or the custom design, you have to submit your logo. They have a design staff that works with you to a point to create your logo, but really you are needing to supply the design aspects and the elements to create what you want. Don't expect a fully customized logo from an artist, if that makes sense. But I was actually very, very happy with my custom brand logo here. For the most part, my vision that I originally envisioned when I wanted to design this came through. For the most part, there were some design changes that I wanted to do, but unfortunately, I couldn't find the art assets online to make it happen, and they didn't have an artist to do that. But we were able to make what I wanted to happen, which is great. Talking about the actual playing surface, I normally, when I play games on the table, I'm playing on top of the leaves. I'm playing as if it's in the dining top selection. And that's for two reasons. One, the biggest reason is the depth here, several inches of space of this sitting down. It's just a little bit much for me for what I want to do in terms of reaching over. I have thought of solutions to fix this, potentially placing beams across this bottom board, raising it up and placing some supports in the middle. I've thought about buying MDF boards and buying a few of them and placing them down there. Of course, that is going to increase the weight and cost of the table. Or I can just place my dining top and never ever use the well, which kind of defeats the purpose for having a board game table, which is unfortunate. If you were to ask my game group how often we play with this or on top, it's probably close to 10% of the time we play in the playing surface, which is something I would love to change. There's other aspects to that as well, which is the leaves. So the question about the leaves comes in twofold. I mentioned that the leaves are heavy, which they are, but they're not unmanageable. To help manage them, we bought the bench. And the bench, while in theory was a great idea because it becomes a storage solution for the leaves, the practical use of the bench is near zero, unfortunately. And this was starting off the biggest disappointment of my table's purchase. So while I want to make sure we're reviewing the Origins table, when you're discussing the Kickstarter as a whole, there's a bunch of add-ons that come up that I think people should be aware of in terms of their purchasing. Now, there could easily be design changes to either the table or the bench to make it usable. But let's talk about it. First, the leaves slide into here. Ow, son of a bitch, that was heavy. So the leaves slide in here. There are felt covers that will slide onto these, but after one or two uses of the felt, they started to tear in places. So you get less confident in the handles. There's little handles that come on the felt that start to tear. Let's, in fact, take a look at that. So here I have placed the felt sleeve onto the leaf. I would say overall I'm happy with the felt, or whatever this is called, satin, whatever, I don't know. And then you'll see there are handles here and here which we use to lift the leaf like so. But I mentioned that the leaves are heavy. So after repeated uses of lifting this leaf and placing them in and then taking them out, in fact, this one's starting to tear a little bit as I speak. These have too much strain on them. In fact, the surging strip coming out right here, in fact. But the reality is, the worst part about the bench is the functionality use. You can see here, we've got the bench up against the table in a manner that I would think would be how I would use it. But the space between the top of the bench, or the bottom of the top of the bench and the bottom of the table is about my 4 fingers. There's no humanly way that I can get a human adult leg, at least anyone that I know, to sit here and functionally use this table, especially with the depth of the well. You have to have this bench very far away to be able to have someone's legs and knees fit in here, and then it makes the use of the table pointless. So the bench, for me, is a complete waste of space. And because of that, I don't have the room to take, in a room that's already dominated by a large table, to take that space up. So we have to use it in the dining room and just place it underneath our current dining room set. It's a big, unfortunate space, waste of space. And because of that, we just lean the leaves wherever we can. So the bench was a big waste. But let's talk about some of the other accessories. The next thing, as you can see in this shot here, are the USBs. The USB add-on, in theory, sounded great. It comes with a standard USB and a USB-C. And for the most part, they work fairly well, except for the type of unit they are. Whenever I try to use it to charge my devices, it's a slow charge. I have a Samsung S21, and whenever I try to plug my phone in there, it gives me an estimate about 3 to 4 hour charge time. Comparatively to most USB plugins, it's 45 to 60 minutes. So it's definitely surprising how weak they are, but in a cinch where you need to have a charging unit at your table, they work well. The biggest frustration, and I hope they change it with season 2, was the initial placement of the USBs. They originally had them right here where my hand is. What that caused was when you sat down, your knees would hit the USB chargers. Where you already have a table that has a low rise here, having these USBs where your knees would rest makes it also nearly impossible. So what I had to do was mainly go underneath, undrill all the USBs. Remember, there's 2 on each side, so a bunch, and then slide them over and re-drill them up. It was doable. It was a fixable problem, but something that should have been caught in initial development. If anyone ever sat at the table, they should have seen this was not a practical use of space. Rounding out the accessories, I would say would be, say, these dividers. One of the reasons I wanted to buy the Origins was for the idea that I could separate and divide potential games underneath the table. And for the most part, they work. But there was a critical flaw in the design. And we're going to showcase that right now. So as we place this leaf onto the spot, the current divider, which you can't see, but they're just a little too high. And I actually have mine raised up a little bit because I have cushion pads under here which we'll talk about in a sec, to stop my leaves from moving. We'll talk about that in a sec. The dividers, when you have them underneath, do create a little bit of a lift in the middle of the table. It's not horrible. And I will say I played with my table, like I said, with the table leaves on, with the dividers underneath like this for the first solid month. And while I noticed the lift in areas like this, it wasn't that bad. But I don't understand why they couldn't have just ripped this just a little bit shorter. Make it in line with the table edge. There's a good couple of, centimeters or something. I don't know the measurement. Without a measuring tape, I have no idea. But there's a definite lift. And they could have just brought it down to the size of the table here, and that at least would have practically been fine. In fact, I don't even know why this is so high in terms of a usable space. Otherwise, what I usually do is I flip them down on their sides, and they work just fine underneath the table. So let's talk about the leaves. And we're going to slide this guy over just to give an example. The biggest frustration and the reason I started my video in the vlog was because the leaf's design causes them to shift. And I'll give you an example. That is how easy these leaves can slide back and forth. And so I have my chair that I'm sitting in lowered, but if I was sitting at a normal height, leaning forward, you can bump these leaves. And when you have your guests sitting at the other end, they could be sitting here and all of a sudden, they get a board in their gut. These leaves have an incredible bad time about sliding. I have reached out to customer service and we'll talk about what they said. about what they've told me. The final thing, and you guys can't really see this maybe from where you're at. I don't really plan on getting up too much. Is the quality of the wood. In terms of the craftsmanship, I'm trying to show you how easily the wood can chip on the table. I was told this is wood stained, but I have a hard time believing this is wood stained with the way this looks. It actually looks like it's a veneer that's placed on, so maybe it's stained veneer on top of whatever board this is. It's the only thing that makes sense as to why the board or the table in general chips and damages so easily. I have not ever had a table that was over $3,000 that was so easily damaged over and over. And I know I'm being hard on the Origins table, but I think it's because it's a big purchase. I spent $3,500 on this table, and I expected a little bit more in terms of the overall craftsmanship and care. As I said, I have reached out to Origins twice to discuss several of the issues. The sliding leaves, the damaged table in areas, talking about the bench, talked about the divider height. I brought up literally everything. And the response that I've effectively been told is that the engineers are aware of the bench issue and they'll be working on it. To buy for the leaf issue, I was suggested to buy rubber pads, which, funny enough, I had already done. But that was their suggestion, and they sent me an Amazon link with links to buy pads on Amazon. And for the chipped wood, I was referred that they would be sending me a pen to mark in. My wife called it a felt pen, a Sharpie. They would be sending me a Sharpie. That seems maybe a little cruel. But to say that I'm disappointed with what I have is would be an understatement. I think the bench is the biggest frustration to me because it's such a burden to have in my space, and I don't know what to do with it. Do you throw it away? I don't even trust sitting it, to be honest with you. I don't know what the weight capacity is. I'm a big boy. I don't trust sitting myself on the bench, so we usually let children or my wife uses it, but I don't trust sitting on it. I don't trust the spacing because it doesn't have any middle supports within the bench. It's all relying on the board to hold your weight. Would I recommend the Origins table? After everything you've heard, you might be surprised to hear my answer. If I were to recommend this table, I would say it would be only at the base level with no additional add-ons. Maybe the leaves, the table topper, if they figure out a solution to the slide. I don't know why no other reviewer has mentioned the sliding table toppers. I do know in the first gen, they used a 3-leaf solution. They switched to a 4-leaf solution to make room for the bench so that these could fit all 4 into a singular bench. So maybe going to the 4-leaf caused this sliding issue. And it's always these two, by the way. It's the 2 middle ones. These ones don't slide too bad because they have these corners to lock them in. I do enjoy having a board game space, a board game table. It has been a blessing and a burden owning this one. And I have daydreamed about the day that I could replace it. But as an entry-level board game table, as my first board game table, at least it works for now. I'm not, because of how easily the wood gets damaged, I'm less nervous now about maintaining its pristine look, which is crazy to me because I always try to take the best care of my product. And I know that this table, especially with this black veneer, it's going to get dinged up, and it's not even from heavy use. It's just from removing the leaves, normal use, not dropping them or anything like that. So I'm upset. If I were to give this a rating, I told this to a lot of my friends, a 6 out of 10 is where I'd place my board game table, the Origins table in its current form. That's everything. That's with my USBs, my leafs, my accessories. I bought everything, all the accessories that I have. 6 out of 10. It's good. It's a little bit better than average, but I'm not knocked away by it. And I would be eagerly looking for a replacement or something to fill my space better if it came along. So hopefully this review is coherent. I've never done a review where I'm dancing all over the room, but I felt like I had to show you guys as much as I can, and you can't do that from a static position. It's not feasible. So hopefully this helped. If it did, if you were considering backing this table, let me know. And I'll tell you everything I can regarding what I have and what I can suggest. It's 6 out of 10. What can I say? It's what it is. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.